Okay, looks like we're pretty much all set. Let's get this show on the road. Let's do this. Come on, let's go. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Pierre, your host. I hope you're all doing great today. So we are starting our day at 10 a.m. Eastern time because we set our clocks back here in France last Sunday. So we have 1 week advance on you guys. Those living on the East Coast of the US, of course. But anyway, since this is a worldwide show, it doesn't really make any sense anyways. So my friends, let's start off our day like we always do. Let's go over to the computer right over here, check out really quickly what we did yesterday, and then we'll start our day from there. So yesterday we didn't do all that much. Basically, we did these rings on our background. I call them electromagnetic rings because I just like astronomy a lot. And they basically, to me, look like ripples. If you throw a rock in a pond and you look at the ripples going out, that is basically what I have in my mind when I draw them. So what are we going to do today? Well, today we are going to continue on the background. We're going to put little planets or bubbles or whatever you want to call it. And of course, I stay in the astronomy mentality. Oops. There we go. Little camera had a hiccup there. Little dark spot. Dark star. Is that what that was? I don't know. A black hole. Anyways, since I am into astronomy, I will call these ripples electromagnetic waves. And then we're going to put what I was saying actually was planets, right? I call them planets. It could be bubbles, whatever you want. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do first. And as that is drying, we'll probably go down and finish our destroyed city, and then maybe have to go back and put a second coat on the background of these planets. I'm not sure. We'll see how things go, how the paint covers, or if it's nice and opaque, we won't have to put that second coat. We'll have to see. Theoretically, it should be okay. So let's get our grays together. I'm going to make this a slightly lighter gray than the background. And then, of course, there will be some shading on these bubbles, which will be darker. So let's try to figure out the right hue that we want. Keeping in mind, of course, that when the paint dries, it has a tendency to darken. So I have to keep that in mind. When I put on these rings yesterday, I had a feeling they were too light and they darkened as they dried. And today they just look perfect. If I had gone a little darker, I think those rings would have been too prominent, too dark. And the same with the background. I put some shading on the other day. I thought it was going to be a little bit too dark. I made it lighter. And that was a good move as well because it turned out to be just right when it dried. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to make this lighter gray then. I have to be careful because the black tends to overwhelm the white very quickly. So what I usually do is just kind of get the right consistency of the paint by mixing in some water. And then after that, I'll bring in the black to find the right hue. So we have our white. I'm going to just put a little black off on the edge here on the side so it's not in the way. And we can bring it in as we need it. First, let's clean off our knife. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to grab a larger brush than I'll be using just because I want to go quickly and get this paint to be the right consistency that we want. So let me just mix in some water. And I'm going to just mix this in very quickly here. Now, if I was mixing some colors, I would probably do this on camera number 1 over there so that we could, so you could see exactly what we're doing. But here I'm just mixing water with white paint. Then I'm going to bring in just a little bit of black. Really not that exciting, not that thrilling. So I'm just going to do it this way, if you do not mind. So let's get some. I think I need a little bit of water. My white paint is really thick. I'm surprised that it was so thick. Even though I've had it all summer here, you would think with the heat it would have kind of not be as thick, I guess, whatever the term is I'm looking for. So we got our white paint. And like I did yesterday, I kind of realized that I'm being a little stingy with my paint. So I'm going to add a little more. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough. It's true, I don't like wasting my paints because they cost so much. Materials for artists are so expensive and the prices are just, I guess like everything else, just jacketing up. Getting really out of control. And since 99% of artists are broke, really, well, you can't afford to waste anything. Only 1 out of 1,000 artists actually makes it and can live off their work, in my opinion at least. So it's a real privilege if you can, but you have to keep in mind of all those who don't make it, who can't make it. And even hats off to those that pursue and continue even though they are broke. And I know exactly the price they are paying, having been through it myself. You lose girlfriends, wives, families, everybody pays the toll of being broke. But when you are, I don't know, when you're not motivated, but when it's ingrained in you, there's nothing you can do. This is your destiny. At least that's how it worked out for me. And sometimes, yep, there's a high price to pay. And I can't blame anybody else but myself, I must say, in my personal case. This is what I wanted to do. This was the only thing that satisfied me in my life, eased my conscience, and made me happy at the same time. But I must say, to do this for a lifetime, you have to be driven. There's no other word for it. So, now that my white paint is kind of in the right texture, I probably could use another drop of water or two, but I'm going to start bringing in just a little bit of the black that I'm going to mix in to make a light gray. I'm going to make a light gray first, then I'm going to test it on the canvas, and we'll see where we're at. As I mentioned earlier, keeping in mind that it's going to darken as it dries. And I'm going to make sure that it's nice and homogeneous, that the gray is mixed thoroughly all the way through. It's getting there. It looks awfully light though. So I'm going to have to think this out for a few seconds. The more I mix it with the white paint, the lighter it's getting. And even though I keep saying it's going to darken as it dries, that to me looks like it might be just a hair too light. So I am going to just, again, grab just a little bit, just the tip of my brush with a little more black and kind of blend that in. And then I think that's going to do it. I'm not going to add any more. So let's keep blending all this in there. Gonna add just a little bit of water. So this looks pretty good and still looks pretty light, but I have a feeling it will darken, as I mentioned, keep mentioning, always mentioning the same thing, a little bit repetitiously. Okay, got the excess paint off my brush. Now let's find the right brush that we're going to be using. I want a brush that I have control over, so I don't want it to be too, the hairs to be too soft. I want it to be slightly rigid and not too big, and this one right here looks like I found the right one on the first shot. Here's another option right here, very close to the first one. So I'm going to go with one of these two brushes. And actually, I don't think it really matters. I'm going to go with this one. Again, I'll see and know almost immediately if this is the right brush or not. But anyways, this will give me time to bring camera number 1 in closer. And we're going to start on this left-hand side and work our way down since I'm right-handed. And to avoid putting my hand in the paint, I always start up on this upper left-hand side. I'm going to move the camera a little bit to the side, just like that. Make sure that I'm not in front of the lens. And again, I'm looking at my paint. And I'm thinking, I'm debating if this is not too light. But if I make it darker, won't it? It might look like the background. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to try this out. And we'll figure it out as we go along. Especially if I need 2 coats. If I need 2 coats, then I can always darken it or lighten it with the second coat. So let's jump up to camera number 1 right here. And let's start these little planets. Just like that. And this looks like it's just the right color that I was looking for, so that's kind of a relief. And again, this is just the background. I am going to have a lot of some plants on top of everything. Let's make a bigger one here. I'm going to try to put this on fairly thick as well. Like that, if we're a little bit lucky, we won't have to put a second coat on. There we go. right. So let me bring the camera down. There we go, very nice. So let's pull up over here. I'm going to turn off the overhead light just so we don't have that reflection on the canvas as I'm painting. There we go. This is kind of stupid doing this one up here because I know there's going to be a plant right in here, but what the hell? We'll just go over it. Here also, and the plant will probably cover this last little planet, but it doesn't matter. Just zoom in a little bit more like that. Let's get a nice fat one right in here. Just like that. Okay. And I'll bring the camera over a little bit as we keep going on this upper edge. What happens if I just, oops, that. I'm going to zoom in quite a bit right on my finger here so I can have some materials when I do the editing of my movie afterwards. There we go. And now I can pull the camera back to do the rest. Try to vary the sizes, have larger, smaller. Of course, I want these all to look like they're just randomly put there. But of course, they are not. You want to keep a certain balance in my painting. Just like that, very good. Let's come on down. On down this way. Get a little toddler in. Small one. There we go. Camera down a little bit. Okay. So how's this all looking? Let me just step back. I do think we need a few more right in the middle here. Right in this area right there. Okay. And so let's pull this back and see what everything looks like. That looks pretty good. I think I'll add maybe one right here, which might or might not be covered by a plant. There we go. Step back, take a look all over. And everything seems pretty well balanced. That's not too bad. So, very good. So I am just going to go back over here and I'm going to add a second coat to that white circle of my nuclear cooling tower right in here. Should use a larger, a little bit bigger brush, but I'm not going to. There we go. Very cool. Okay. I wanted to get that done because it only had one coat and I could see my brush strokes right through it. Of course, on the camera, you can't really tell, but when you're standing in front of the painting, you can see the difference. So it's kind of annoying, and that's why we're taking care of that problem right now. There we go. Get the outside first. And then we can just fill in. Very good. Very good. And I might as well just get this part right here as well. There's going to be a black outline to all this anyways, but still, there we go. There we go. And I guess I'll do the same thing, which I neglected a few minutes ago, but I'll do the same thing to the top of our tower over here as well. There, very good. Very good, very good. All this will make, I think, a lot more sense when we have our black outline to everything. So let me pull the camera and bring it over here, because we're going to be working on our city here, our destroyed little city, right down in here. But first, I'm going to just step back for a second. Very good. Okay, so I'm going to turn the light back on. There we go. Since we set the clocks back an hour last Sunday, it tends to get a little darker earlier, of course. And not only that, but it's been a kind of gloomy, rainy day for the last few days, ever since last Saturday, actually, which brought the dampness into the studio, unfortunately, and also, well, just makes everything a little bit darker as well in the studio. So that said, what am I going to do? I'm going to do my things I need. I have a special little brush right here, which is the brush I usually use for a painting this size and to do my little destroyed city. So I'll just soak that up because it is a kind of a rigid brush. And the nice thing about painting with all these grays is I just only have to use one jar of water for all my colors. So that's pretty cool, rather than using all 6 or 7 of my jars here. So that said, what am I going to do? I'm just going to get black paint. This is just going to be just black, broken windows and explosions and whatnot. So I can actually use the cap of my black paint for that. I shouldn't be mixing up several colors, so that's would work out fine. Again, I'm going to be working some water with this, even though it's not as thick as the white paint was, but still, I like my paint to flow on the canvas without any resistance. So let me just scoop off the excess black paint that's on my knife. Clean it off as well. And I'm going to bring over my chair. Might as well be comfortable. And like usual, I'm going to start on the left-hand side and work my way to the right. So the knife is clean, and I need to get the paint, work the paint a little bit. It is a little bit stiff, not too bad, but let me just bring in some water like this. There we go, it'll go a little faster. Yeah, not only can I feel the dampness creep into the studio, but on days like today where I wash my hair when I took a shower and I come into the studio kind of with wet hair, that's when I can really feel the dampness. It's not too bad now. I think most of my hair is dry, even though it's a mess. Well, it's a little damp still, but when it really gets cold, then I put my wool beret on to keep the head warm. Don't want to catch a cold. Catch a cold and right away I'm going to go, oh my God, I got the virus. Oh no, I have COVID. Okay, so this looks pretty good. It looks maybe just a whisker too thick. Maybe if I bring in just one fat drop of water, that might do the trick. Of course, I want this black paint to stay nice and opaque, because there's no way in the world I am going to put 2 coats for what I'm doing. So let's just work this around. This looks like it's getting to be pretty good. I just hope I have enough. I'm having a hard time calculating the amount of paint that I need for most of what I'm doing. Okay, this looks pretty good. So let me just wipe off my edge of my brush so it feels comfortable in my hands. I don't like that wet, gucky feeling on my fingertips when I'm painting. There we go. And I don't mind having paint on my hands, but not on my tips when I'm actually painting. So that said, where are we here? Camera number 1 is all set. Okay, so let's get to work. I'm going to have a sip of water first. Actually, I should have some sip of tea would be ideal. There we go. So, everything going okay with the stream? No problems, no drop frames? Okay, very good. So, let's go for it. I'll just switch cameras. Back to number 1. Go. Oh punaise, tu m'as fait peur.
Moi aussi, je me suis fait peur.
Ça va? Oui,
Ouais, ça va. À tout à l'heure.
ça marche. All right, so there we go. First part of the destruction. Let's get these windows down. Just like that. Explosions. Oh. And basically that's all we're going to be doing is just destroyed windows. Yeah, there's nothing pretty in a destroyed city. And look at the pictures of what's going on around the world and see pictures of Lebanon destroyed or Sarajevo, or just breaks your heart how so quickly hatred and racism can just destroy an entire country, a nation. There we go. Yeah, it's pretty monotonous, I must say, but the way it goes. Okay, let me just move over a little bit. I might as well bring the camera with me. Oops, I hear my phone. Let me go see what's going on over there. Oh. Yeah, I'm not going to answer that right now. Well, let me see what's going on. There we go. Shut off the phone. That's a lot better. And let me come back over here. This time of day, if you want to talk to me, you have to go to my streaming channel on YouTube. The only way you're going to join me while I'm painting. Go. Okay. Destroying the world. There we go. I'm going to have to move my chair in a few seconds here. Actually, I'm going to do that right now. I'll move the camera first. And then I'll move myself next. So let me just step back for a second, take a look. Yeah, very good. So let's keep destroying the city, adding chaos and mayhem. And actually, I'm going to just switch paintbrushes for this part right here. There we go. Seems to work a lot better. go. I know there are a lot of problems in the world, but I do think that this is going to be a key changer, this nuclear shit. I'm afraid that it is going to go wrong at one point or another, especially with all the climate changes going on. I mean, if you think of Fukushima, that was caused because of a huge tidal wave, right? A tsunami that caused that tragedy of the nuclear plant. That and the rise of fascism around the world. Give people peace and stability for 50, 60 years, and they still find reasons to bitch and be unhappy. Go vote for some fascist idiot, liars, destructors, violent people use intimidation and brutality to sway people, to intimidate people. Of course, all these people never bother to think or look at history to learn a little bit how all that came about. Everybody knows the impact of, let's say, Nazism, what it caused, and the millions and millions of death that came because of it. Why and how it came to power? Well, not very many people realize or think about that. At least not in the US. Of course, Europe that lived through it, they are a lot more astute. History of dictatorships in Europe has been long and painful. And it's no fun. I've lived in South America in the 1970s when there were dictatorships, brutal dictatorships over there. And believe me, it is no fun to live under the rule of strength rather than the rule of law. I guess everything is cyclical. Hopefully. Still not an excuse, and it doesn't make me feel much better. So, get this last one right here, and are we all done? Let me just step back and take a look. Looks like we might be all done. Yes, there we go. Doesn't look bad at all. little touch to this. Just like that. Cover this. There we go. So now what does this look like? Where are we now? Let me just wipe off this paint, step back, get the chair out of the way, and see what we've done so far. So, very good. A little bit of progress today, I guess. Unfortunately, if we were in the middle of summer, all these little planets would be dry, and I could put the highlights to them right away. Unfortunately, it's not dry yet. And I keep forgetting that in the winter time, well, that's one of the things we have to put up with. And honestly, I can't do anything else. So I can't really tell if I'm going to need a second coat or not. When I look at one like that, I would say no. But when I look at one that's slightly drier, it looks like I can see through it, which means it will need a second coat. But I can't put that second coat on before it's dry. So therefore, we are at the conclusion of today's stream. So, there you have it. Once again, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow at 10 a.m., right? We're going to start, because of the time difference that we have here in France and with the States, it'll be an hour later for you guys, for those on the East Coast. And for me, it won't change. It'll still be at 3 p.m. So anyways, once again, I'm going to thank you. I'm going to leave you like I always do with my schedule, which is completely off by 1 hour and will be till next Monday. But this is the routine I'm into. So I'm just going to follow my routine and give you my schedule and by saying, ciao mes amis.